All right, fellow scientists, let's look at chapter 22, section 3, and this is all about rocks. Now remember, rocks basically are a combination of different minerals, and those minerals have been pressed together under high pressure and temperature, and now you've got basically a mass of minerals, and those are called rocks. And we're going to talk about rocks and what's called the rock cycle. Now, rocks are going to be classified into three major groups: igneous, sedimentary, and metamorphic. And how are they classified? They're classified that way because of how they were formed. You have to know that the way that these different rocks are formed is slightly different, so that's why we're going to put them into different categories. First one, igneous rock. How is igneous rock formed? It is formed from magma. So you should know that magma is your liquid rock. Okay, rock that is going to be under high temperature is going to turn into a liquid, and that molten rock is going to then cool. When that molten rock comes out from under the crust, it's called magma then, okay? It flows out of volcanoes, or it's magma under the earth, I should say, and then when it comes out through the volcano, we call it lava. But when that cools, that cooling of the molten rock, the magma, is then going to produce a type of rock that is called an igneous rock. Igneous rock forms when molten rock, molten material, and when it is exposed to the cool air or the water as it comes out from under the surface, when it cools down and it turns into a solid. Now that could happen also inside the earth if it's cool enough underneath the earth, but we are familiar with it happening at the surface. That then is called igneous rock. Okay? As mentioned, it can happen underground as that molten rock cools underground. That's called intrusive, inside, right? Intrusive rock. And then if the rock is cooled on the Earth's surface, that's called extrusive because it had to exit from under the Earth's surface and it cools then. It's called extrusive. All right? These are going to cool a little bit differently and they're going to give them a little bit of a different texture, but they're still both igneous rock. It's just where did they end up cooling, above or below the Earth's surface. Okay? All right. The other one, sedimentary rock. Sedimentary rock is basically when you've got fine particles, and those fine particles then are pressed together, are put under pressure, and they are kind of cemented together. Well, you're going to get a whole bunch of different particles because of the weathering process that rocks experience on our Earth. So erosion and weathering breaks down rocks into sediment. That basically those are small, solid pieces of material. When they get deposited, that sediment is going to get deposited either by wind or water, whatever manner. That sediment is going to get deposited somewhere, and then over time, more and more sediment piles up. The pressure causes the deeper sediment to be pushed together and compressed, basically cemented together. Okay? Some of the minerals that are in the earth, they mix with water and they kind of cement everything together. The sedimentary rock then is formed. So sedimentary rock are tiny particles of rock material, maybe even organic material, and they are squeezed and cemented together over time, and that is then creating what is called a sedimentary rock. You don't need to know the different types of sedimentary rocks. Okay? Just that sedimentary rock is sediment that is pressed together over time and cemented into a solid rock. Okay? All right, we don't need to know about clastic rock or chemical rock or organic rock, different types of sedimentary rock. Don't worry about those. Metamorphic rock. Metamorphic means changing form. All right. Basically, if you already have rock, this is when you already have like sedimentary rock, and then it is buried even deeper, and it undergoes further transformation because of added heat, pressure, or maybe a chemical reaction. Metamorphic rock then is formed. There is a change. It's going to be different than just sedimentary rock. Okay, so you have an existing rock, let's say sedimentary rock, or maybe even igneous rock. I think igneous rock is usually broken down first, but sedimentary rock, and that sedimentary rock then undergoes tremendous heat and pressure and changes to make it even different than it was before, and that is now becoming what is called metamorphic rock. Okay, so yes, the original rock could have been igneous or sedimentary, and then due to the heat, pressure, and change, you're going to get something new, something slightly different, and now we call it metamorphic rock. Okay? The changes happen in the texture, the arrangement, the crystallization. Okay, it's going to be different than it was before, different enough that we say we have a different type of rock. So you can see here, this was shale, then more pressure and heat, more pressure and heat, and more pressure and heat. And so if you read this here, it's talking about how that rock changed over time due to the additional heat and pressure, and it kind of made it a different type of rock than it was before. Now let's talk about how all of these rocks can actually become the different forms. There is a rock cycle. One can change into another. A rock cycle, these are talking about forces within the earth or on the earth's surface that are going to change a rock from one form to another form. Okay, and we talked about this pretty much, but basically the idea is you need to know this process or this cycle and the processes that go from one to another. So let's start up here. If you've got a bunch of sediment, so water is eroding away the land and is carrying all these particles with it, deposits those particles at the end of the stream or the river, and those particles begin to build up. And over time, they get more and more layers, so compacting and cementation, and you get sedimentary rock. Then that sedimentary rock could possibly, what are its options? It could break down again and turn back into sediment. Or it could get continued exposure to heat and pressure and change into something different. That would be called metamorphic rock. Then, what are the options for this metamorphic rock? If that metamorphic rock gets exposed to the air and to water and to the elements, then there could be breaking down due to weathering and erosion, or it could get pushed further down, and increasing the temperature could actually melt it, and it could turn into liquid molten rock, which is called magma. And then that magma has an option. It could cool, it could stay underground and continue to be molten rock, or it could cool underground if it got closer to the surface, or it could get pushed up to the surface and out and cool, and you would then have igneous rock. That igneous rock then has options. It could then get pushed back underground and melt and turn back into magma, or due to the elements it could break down and turn into sediment, or it could just get exposed to more heat and pressure, not all the way down so far that it turns into molten rock, but enough where it would then morph into metamorphic rock. Okay, so you need to understand this cycle. It does kind of go in a circle, but you'll also have to be aware of the different other paths that can take a rock from one station to another station. All right, that is section 22.3.